Story 1. My 35M wife, 29F, came out to me as a lesbian yesterday and I'm shattered. Original post March 13th, 2023. We've been together for 10 years, married for 4. She is the love of my life, and the thought of living life without her is unbearable. Yesterday morning I woke up, noticed her sitting on the patio crying, so I obviously went to go console her and figure out what was wrong. While fighting back tears, she manages to tell me that she's a lesbian and she's so sorry. She isn't attracted to me anymore, but she also doesn't want to leave me. I've always known she was into women as well, but it was never an issue for me. We've had quite a few threesomes with different women over the years, and they've all been amazing. I've even been fine with her exploring that side of herself with other women without me. I just wanted her to be happy and fulfilled. The entire day was spent either crying or talking about our now uncertain future. All the plans we had made about buying a home, travel, getting dogs and cats, retirement, went up in smoke. We had a fantastic sex life up until just a few days ago. We would have sex at least a few times a week, and we rarely failed to get each other off. We experimented and grew with each other over the years, exploring new kinks and figuring out new ways to please one another. I told her I didn't blame her, that if she really is a lesbian, it's not her fault and she hasn't really done anything wrong. But it doesn't make it hurt any less. She's my best friend. We have such a wonderful, supportive relationship, and we've been through so fucking much together. I can't stand the thought of losing her and starting over. She said she doesn't want to leave me, that she still wants a future with me, just without the sex. But she also understands how unfair that is to me, so she's fine with me finding a fuck buddy or two if I wanted. All I really want is her, though. I'm so insanely attracted to her, and I make sure to tell her so every day. She's the sexiest woman in the world to me, but finding out that attraction is one-sided has obviously shattered my heart and crippled my self-esteem. I don't know what to do. I'm certain most of the comments I get will be along the lines of move on, or the classic lawyer up, start hitting the gym. But I don't know if I'm strong enough to do that. I'm praying she's going to wake up and realize she made a mistake, that she's just overwhelmed and confused. Deep down, I know that's not how this works, but the wounds are still so fresh, I'm grasping at any little straws of hope I can find. We don't have any kids, all our pets have passed away, but we did just move into a new house last week, so we may be stuck together until next March at least. I just want my wife back. Update. 1 year later, March 11th, 2024. Hola Reddit, long time no talk. I figured it was about time to update y'all on the roller coaster that has been the last year of my life. Allow me to start with a few apologies. Sorry for the jumbled mess that was my original post. I was a mess at that time. And apologies to everyone that reached out that I didn't get back to. There were a lot of you, and it became too much to continue replying with the same answers over and over. I appreciate every one of you that reached out with kind words and those that shared their similar experiences. 1 year ago today, I woke up and got out of bed blissfully unaware of the fact that my life was about to completely crumble around me. That morning, I found my wife on our back patio, clearly in distress. So obviously, I put on my best husband hat and went to figure out what the issue was. I assumed it was something work-related, but I was very wrong. While fighting back tears, she manages to tell me that she's a lesbian and she's so very sorry. I'll never forget the feeling of the world closing in on me as the most intense fear, panic, confusion, and grief began to set in. Initially, she said she wasn't going to leave me, that we could do couples therapy and figure out a path forward together. Of course I agreed. 3 days after receiving that news, I was informed by my mother that my stepdad was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. 3 days after that, I was told by my father that my stepmom was also diagnosed with skin cancer. Thankfully, my stepmom had surgery and is cancer-free. But my stepdad wasn't as fortunate. He passed away last November. He was a wonderful, funny, kind, successful, and impressive man, and I miss him a lot. Having all of these things hit me within a week caused me to completely spiral out of control. I refrained from going to work. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I merely existed. I became one with my couch and distracted myself with hockey podcasts and weed. My wife did her best to be there for me, but she was obviously going through her own turmoil, and she retreated into her own world, physically and emotionally. For a bit of backstory, she had spent her life with crippling anxiety, and the mere thought of a tough conversation was enough to cause her to break down crying. But months prior to all this, she had begun taking anti-anxiety meds, so now she was finally able to communicate to me not only that she was gay, but all the other times I had let her down. 10 years' worth of moments I had been inconsiderate or insufficient as a partner. I always thought we had communicated well, but apparently that was more one-sided. And I had always thought I did a wonderful job as a husband. I tried to be attentive, thoughtful, caring, and compassionate. I was never abusive or cheated. We rarely fought, and when we did, we always ended up talking it out like adults. I thought I was doing a great job, but I wasn't doing the things she needed out of a partner. But since she never communicated it to me, how was I to know? Hearing about all these little moments that I had let her down hurt like hell. But it also gave me a light at the end of the tunnel. A mission. Save marriage. I couldn't do anything about her being gay, but I could damn sure make up for every instance of neglect. I put together a plan to prove to her I was worth staying with. I surprised her with a picnic, got us tickets to the circus, made a reservation at a restaurant for the first time in my life, and took her for her favorite kind of food. I begun learning French. She's French-Canadian. I took the lead on planning our next big vacation. I started writing her a song. I was going to give her guitar lessons since she had expressed interest in the past. I spent every minute of every day for the next 2 months figuring out ways to show her just how much she meant to me. She was also able to confess that she wanted children. We had agreed early on that kids weren't on the table, but she had a change of heart. And for her, I would have absolutely done it, and I told her so numerous times. In May, she left the country for a girls' trip to the Dominican. It had been planned for at least a year. We agreed to go minimal contact during the week-long trip so she could get her head straight and really figure out what she wanted. We actually hooked up the day before she left, and it was the first time in 2 months I felt like everything was actually going to be okay. But the day she came home, she officially ended our marriage. Now, one of the toughest parts of this situation was we had just moved into a big new house with a few roommates on March 1st. Neither of us could afford to have her just move out right away. It would have screwed ourselves and our roomies over financially. We live in Vancouver and it's bloody expensive here. So we figured out a system of sharing the room. There were even times where we would still share the bed, but it eventually became too painful. So I renovated the large shed in our backyard with a futon, air conditioning, and a TV, and basically lived in it all summer. She began dating someone, so as time went on, she was gone more and more, until she had basically moved out but continued to pay rent. During these months, so many people close to me went through tragedies too. One of my closest friends lost his mom to cancer. A good friend from high school lost his wife to cancer too. I had known her through work and got to see them begin their relationship, get married, and have a beautiful daughter only for it to end so unbelievably tragically. And mere weeks before my stepdad's passing, my stepsister's longtime partner chose to end his life. The amount of grief I felt for myself and those close to me was unbearable, unfathomable. So much loss in such a short period of time. Every day for months I thought about ending it all, but kept going mostly because I couldn't do that to my parents, for all the bad that took place. There was actually some good. I quit my toxic but well-paying job in May due to being so overwhelmed and their lack of sympathy towards my situation. And that led me to find an absolute dream job a few months later. Now I work as the quality control guy for a large music retailer's guitar department. I get to play, test, and fix guitars every day, and it's a dream come true. A few buddies and I entered a radio contest last summer and actually won it. We improvised a 30-second commercial, submitted it, and out of 80-plus entries, we won $10K and nationwide play. My ex-wife actually saw our commercial play on the big screen before a movie once. I started a stupid YT channel with a good friend doing dumb reaction videos. It's not even remotely successful yet, but it's a fun outlet. The Christmas prior to my wife coming out, she had bought me the Blu-ray box set of the entire Dragon Ball Z series, and somehow we managed to watch all of it. before, during, and after the split. I'm quite proud of that for us. And finally, last November I met someone really special. She was also out of a long-term marriage and they had split for pretty much the same reason. We've been officially dating since New Year's Day. She's absolutely wonderful, beautiful, intelligent, successful, and an insanely talented artist. She's inspired me to start painting and I've inspired her to take up guitar. We've been helping each other heal and enjoy life again. My ex and I are on good terms. We still care about one another and only want the best for each other. She was there when we saw my stepdad for the last time. She and my mom are still friendly, which honestly makes me really happy, and she officially moved out on March 1st of this year. It's been a wild ride. From breaking down and bawling my eyes out 10 times a day to where I am now, with the best job I've ever had and a fun, promising new relationship. I truly didn't think I'd make it through, but I have. Thanks for reading, y'all. I'll include my original post in the comments section. Story 2. He has a ring and I found out that he's planning to propose on our anniversary, but I feel like I've mentally checked out 1.5 years after he first told me we were going to get engaged soon. Concluded. Original post. December 28th, 2024. My partner bought the ring a long time ago. He previously insisted that we had to live together to see if we were compatible before he could propose, and that he wouldn't propose otherwise. I have been ready for much longer than he has, and that's not his fault, of course, but after waiting and waiting, I have gone from anxiety to hope to excitement and finally just numbness. He didn't intend for me to know, but my sister, who helped him finalize the ring out of the ones I had liked, was happy about it and couldn't keep the secret that he's proposing in just under a week. It makes sense now that he was trying to get me to take a couple of days off to go away for a mini break to the town in which we met. But I couldn't get leave approved. She noticed that I've been feeling quite low throughout the holiday season, and she thought it was because I was waiting for a proposal. But the reality is that I gave up on it a month or two ago. I've tried to convince myself that it's what I still want, but that ship has sailed. It's quite strange to be in the process of falling out of love with him gradually. He's 29 and I'm about to turn 29. I fear I'm being irrational here because in total we've been together for only 3 years. But he's been telling me for 1.5 years that he will soon propose. I feel compelled to say yes now because everything is in place, but I don't feel in love with him anymore. He seems happy to talk about marriage now and has brought up marrying in autumn a bunch of times, and I wish I still felt the same joy at discussing wedding plans that I did before. Relevant. Comment? Commenter 1. 3 years is nothing considering you could be spending the rest of your life with this person. Be glad you realized now. OP. I've only begun feeling this way because he kept saying a proposal was coming soon and didn't propose for 1.5 years. And his insistence on living together when he knew it was not something I was comfortable with without being engaged. How long ago did OOP move in with her boyfriend? Was it fine for her to live with him? OP. Only a few months ago, and I shouldn't have done it because I was not happy to. I used to share a flat with my friend and had done so for years. The only way to live together was to move into the flat that he's been renting because he lives on his own. Big mistake doing something that didn't feel right to me at all. No, it's actually been fine living with him, but living together before engagement was really something I did not want to do, but he made it a condition to getting engaged after he bought the ring earlier in the year. I shouldn't have agreed to it, but I did. And that's where the resentment has come from, along with the 1.5-year wait. Commenter 2. To feel that much resentment after such a rather short time is a sign that you weren't right for each other anyway. Honestly, 3 years of dating and requesting to live with each other before marriage are totally reasonable, at your age. Objectively, you are being a bit unfair here. But if you are just not feeling it anymore, so be it. It's better to end things now before the engagement. This is no base for a lifetime commitment. OOP downvoted. I don't think feeling resentment after waiting for 1.5 years is soon at all. He said he would propose soon, and soon is not more than a few months. Certainly not over a year. He should have been honest that he wasn't ready instead of dragging this for 1.5 years. OOP is blaming her BF for her choices, and she needs to communicate with her boyfriend about the issue. OOP. I don't believe I am, especially as he wasn't communicating clearly with me on the issue until a few months ago. Sometimes you do things that you feel will work out fine, but you don't realize until later how they will make you feel. I felt pushed into making that decision because of the various conversations that we had earlier this year, in which he shared things that he should have done a long time ago. Commenter 3, 2 questions. Numbness aside, do you want to marry him? Like, take away all of the pomp and circumference and the emotional politics around it? Do you want him to be your life partner? What the fuck is up with your sister? Why did she spill the beans? I get if she knew you were checking out and felt you needed a heads up, but if she didn't know that, and it doesn't sound like she did, what she did isn't okay. Anyway, it's normal to be almost a little blue when getting engaged later than you wanted. It doesn't mean this won't work out, unless you don't want it to. It could mean that you just need to have a good, healthy fight where you air out all of your frustration that he has held you hostage on this for so long. OP 1. There was a time until recently when I really wanted him to be my life partner and I thought we were a good match, but not anymore. 2. She was mistaken and thought that I had been feeling low because he hadn't proposed, so she was trying to cheer me up, thinking I'd be thrilled. He told her he had everything planned and ready for a proposal on our anniversary, so she thought I would be happy. Update, December 31st, 2024, 3 days later. In the middle of 2023, he said he was proposing soon, but a year later he still hadn't, and finally admitted he wouldn't until we lived together, even though he had bought a ring. This was despite me asking him a couple of times what was holding things up, and he always assured me it would happen soon. After he finally shared this with me, he kept insisting I move in, even though I wasn't interested in that before an engagement. But I did because of how much I loved him, and the resentment had been slowly building up ever since. I know it's my fault for moving in, and I should have been firmer about my boundaries. He knew from very early on that I didn't want to set up a household home with a partner without an engagement. Early in the relationship, 9 months in, he wanted me to move in, but I told him that I wouldn't do that with someone unless I was going to marry the person and was engaged. He said at the time that was okay and that he understood. So why did he say he was going to propose soon last year, knowing where we stood on this matter? Knowing he was going to propose and realizing I didn't want to marry him anymore, I told him on Saturday night that we couldn't be together anymore. He didn't take it well. He told me I had blindsided him and that he thought we both wanted a future together. He initially said he didn't know what he did wrong, and I had to explain to him that he knew we had issues regarding him always having his way and him knowing I was uncomfortable about moving in before an engagement. The truth is, whenever we disagree, I always end up giving in. He doesn't compromise and isn't very flexible. I've pointed this out to him before, and he accepted that it was an issue, yet nothing changed. Now that I'm mending things, he's saying he'll work on it, and it's not something to break up over. We could probably work through the resentment and improve our communication, but I don't know if I'll ever feel the same way about him again. Also, given that he kept saying he was proposing soon but waited for 18 months, I worry that he might again drag his feet when it comes to other things like having kids or even with planning the wedding. He woke up this morning, the 31st, the day he was planning to propose on as it's our anniversary, and said he couldn't believe what was happening. He said it didn't feel real because we should be getting engaged today, but instead, we were in the process of breaking up. He even asked at one point if we could try again, saying our relationship had been happy for both of us, and that living together we had been very compatible, irrespective of how I felt about moving in. He asked if I would consider giving the relationship another chance if we took a break from each other for some time. Again, I don't think this is a good idea. The days since I ended the relationship have been really tough, but it was the right thing to do because we are incompatible. People in my previous post mentioned that I just wanted to marry and get engaged and didn't care who to, but that's not true. My ex, whom I was with from university, was keen to marry me and brought it up soon after we started our first jobs. However, there were a range of issues in that relationship, and I didn't think it would work. So after trying to resolve our issues and not being able to for a year, I had to end that relationship. If a marriage and engagement were all I wanted, I would have married him and ignored the issues. I genuinely thought my current partner, well ex now, and I were a great match. But I suppose I was wrong. I was living in a flat with a friend, and it was ideal for me in every way. I had to find someone to take over my lease, and I did this to move in with him. Now I have to start looking for a new place again. I've already started, and fortunately, I live in a city where finding a place won't be too difficult. My friend said I should not move out in a rush since I'm paying half the rent toward his place, but the reality is that this place never felt like home because I moved in begrudgingly. Again, I know it's my fault, but I can't live in what is essentially his home if we aren't going to be together. My sister said that I should think about the fact that I'm going to be 29 and about how it might be difficult to find someone to have children with before I hit my mid-30s, but it's better to be single than in a relationship that's not right. I know I might not meet anyone else anytime soon or at all because you never know what life is going to bring, but that's okay. There are other things in my life that I plan to focus on, like studying for a postgrad diploma that I have been wanting to do for some time. I know he'll be fine soon as he's quite resilient, and then both of us can get on with our lives. Relevant comment? Downvoted commenter. In this case, his hesitancy paid off because it allowed the OP to realize that they weren't compatible for reasons unrelated to proposing. He was correct not to propose. It saved a future divorce. This wasn't his intent, but the overall issue here was the OP wasn't happy with how decisions were made in the relationship. The partner was. It took years for the OP to express this. Now that she has, both can move on with their lives. In this case, the issue appears to be she didn't communicate with him the issues she was having. He was quite clear that he wanted to live with someone before getting married and proposed after a reasonable length of time after it occurred. It's good she was finally able to communicate and move on. OOP. He was not clear about this and waited a year to tell me why he wasn't proposing. And this was after earlier in the relationship, when he wanted us to live together. I had told him I wouldn't live with someone unless the relationship was going to lead to marriage, and I was engaged, and he said that was fine and continued the relationship. Commenter 1. Did he need help with bills? Why did you need to move in and pay half? OOP. He didn't need help with paying the bills, but I chose to pay as I think that's fair. I would not be comfortable with him picking up the bills for both of us when we both work. Commenter 2. He didn't fight for you. You'll meet the one. You know now what you don't want, and that's a good start, and stick to your boundaries and goals. Always. OP. He's been quite difficult since that day, particularly about me leaving and looking for somewhere to move, but I don't want him to make it any more difficult by fighting for me. Just can't wait to be out of this place. Commenter 3. He doesn't compromise and isn't very flexible. I've pointed this out to him before, and he accepted that it was an issue, yet nothing changed. You are doing the right thing! Commenter 4. Don't fall for the trap of going back to a man who is only willing to consider changing his ways when you already have your foot out the door. He won't change, and even if he does, it will only be temporary. Story 3. My 27F marriage is falling apart with the love of my life, 32M, because of his brother, 35M. Original post October 3, 2020. I will preface this by stating that I love my husband and will do anything it takes to stay with him till the end. We dated for 2 years before marrying last year, and before him, my life was a mess. Now I am the happiest person alive with him and never want this relationship to end. I will use fake names for my husband, John, and his brother, Brian. To start, this all began a year ago before the wedding. Brian had always been a screw-up his entire life, but 2 years ago sobered up and moved in with his and John's parents. John's father owns a car dealership and is quite wealthy. John grew up quite rich, but never liked that lifestyle and decided to become a nurse instead of working for his father. Brian started working at the dealership and has turned his life around, according to John's parents. I had met a few times and he had creeped me out and was very inappropriate. He commented about my ass and even tried to grope me once, but John stopped him. I was very adamant before the wedding about not inviting Brian. John has a strong relationship with both his parents, and it's a reason why I admire him. So when John's parents would not attend if Brian could not, I gave in and invited Brian. That is where everything went wrong. The wedding was amazing, but Brian came up with a so-called prank. He found a half-full can of red paint in the church utility closet and thought it would be funny to dump it on me after the ceremony. When I went to the bathroom, he jumped around the corner and splashed the paint all over me and the dress. I was hysterical and wanted to call the cops on Brian. John calmed me down and kicked Brian out of the wedding. A bridesmaid lived nearby, and I used her shower, and she lent me a dress to wear. From then on, I have never talked or been near Brian. John is very understanding, but every year insists we go to his parents for Thanksgiving and Christmas. He will not budge and says that he cannot cut his parents out of his life. However, Brian is still living with his parents and attended Thanksgiving and Christmas with them last year. I somehow got through both last year, never going near Brian and staying next to John the entire time. Last week I got sent an image of a penis. Then a text following saying, "I bet you mine is bigger than my brother's." I do not know how he got a hold of my number, and I was disgusted beyond all belief. I wanted to again call the cops, but John told me that would just allow for Brian to torment us more. Yesterday I told John I will not attend Thanksgiving or Christmas with his family under no circumstances. John was very conflicted about the whole matter. He said that his parents are great people and that Thanksgiving and Christmas are all he has with them. This has been by far the biggest strain on our relationship, and I can feel John and I moving apart. I do not know how to discuss this with John, and I need help. I have never done this before, and for the first time I'm going to the internet with this issue and instead of John. What can I do to fix this situation? Am I being irrational with my demands? TEL, daughter. My husband's brother, who I have a toxic history with, sent me a dick pic, and I'm fighting with my husband about whether or not to go meet his parents and his brother for the holidays. Update October 12, 2020, 9 days later. Here is the previous post on the issue that outlines the whole scope of the matter at hand. To start, I want to preface this by stating that I did not want to write an update on this. When I wrote the first post, I got angry at the first couple of comments that came in because of their drastic, unrealistic nature. No, I am not going to divorce my husband because he won't stick up for me. Nobody is perfect, including me, but a lot of the comments I felt didn't understand the whole scope of the problem, and I feel that is on me for not writing everything I should have. But some of it was helpful, and I will address that later. Things I should have addressed or mentioned in the first post I will put here. First, my husband is adopted, and so is Brian. Because of this, there are a few things that change their relationship. John was adopted at the age of 3 and does not remember anything other than his adoptive family. However, Brian was adopted at the age of 9 when John was 6. Brian is 6'5" and John is 5'10", and Brian has been bigger than John all of his life. John has talked about how Brian was sexually abused before he was adopted, and that is a reason why his mother and father have always held back. Brian has bullied, and I do not mean in the older brother's sense, John. John does not talk about it much, but I get the feeling Brian has done some fucked up shit to him. With that being said, after I calmed down from the first few comments the next day, I came back to the post to see it had somewhat exploded. I read through comments all day at work and wrote down some of the ones I needed to listen to. After I got home from work, I and John talked for a long time, and then the next night and the night after that. What I discussed with him was the stress his family has put on me. He by no means agrees with what his parents are doing or anything Brian has done. He opened up and did say that he felt he was failing a bit. He teared up for a bit when he told me that he wished that he had done more about Brian at the wedding and that he does not expect me to come with him to his family's ever again. He is a very shy guy and does not like conflict. He said that he would find a way for him to go just by himself for Thanksgiving and that he would just skip Christmas this year altogether. But an important thing I wanted, after reading the comments, was for him to explain to his mother exactly why I was not coming. I do not want Brian to get away with this and to expect me to be totally passive in the situation. John the first night was hesitant, to say the least, about the idea. He was afraid of many things about if he did that. But the second night, after thinking about it at work, he decided that was the right thing to do. He is planning to talk to his mother next week. But some of the comments did alarm me about my behavior. One comment said I might have some codependency, and other comments said I should go to couples counseling. When I brought the idea up to John, he surprised me by saying that he would like to go to couples counseling. John said he would research it and has scheduled a session for us next week before he calls his mother. I am very relieved and have felt much better. I think talking with John really helped and has assured me that John and I are on the same page. That is all I can say. And I know that there is interest in my situation. And while I do not like for my life to be opened and read like a book, I think it did help me understand myself more. Story 4. Someone turns to Reddit when to help their brother, who was trapped in his car during the 2022 Buffalo blizzard. Saw another post on here saying someone was stuck on near crabapples. Well, I think to myself, hey, I only live about half a mile from there. I bet I could help this person, and make the decision to go. He's been stuck there all day and his clothes got wet from the snow trying to leave, so I knew he was in need of help. So I'm getting myself ready. I grab what little gas I have. I grab some food and water in case he needs any, and some new warm clothes and a blanket for him. Then I gear myself up. I put on some thick hiking socks, sweatpants, a backpack to carry my gear, puffy snow pants, a Hanes white tee, 2 sweaters, a jacket, a high-vis vest, thick leather winter gloves, insulated winter muck boots, a headband, and a motorcycle helmet to try and combat the snow and wind. So it's time to head out. It's about 11 p.m. Wind gusts are still ripping outside, and snow drifts can bring the visibility down to 0. The motorcycle helmet is a mixed bag of being a help and having snow stuck in my face, but overall a good choice. Now let me tell you that going to get this man was difficult. I'm a taller man myself, so the snowbanks weren't as much of a struggle for me. But unfortunately, when the snow drifts go up to my mid-thigh and every step has my foot drop all the way down into the snow with no resistance, it leads to just walking becoming a big task in itself. So I'm making my way down the street, and it is difficult. I get that I'm wearing a motorcycle helmet and it's hard to breathe in that, but even when the visor was lifted, it was still hard to breathe. Not only from the snow constantly blowing in my face, but also the fact that it was hard to walk. I'm in decent shape, but walking through those drifts is no easy task. Eventually, I make it down my street and a few streets over, switching between easier and near impossible spots of walking along the way. I get to an automotive business, and their building blocked a lot of the snow, which let me walk like normal for once in a long while. I keep tracking, but now I'm near a main road without buildings as densely packed, so the snow drifts are blinding at points, and I need to focus on buildings and objects to know where I'm going. Eventually, I make it to the man's car after a good 40 minutes of walking when I only traveled 0.6 miles. So I get to the car and give him some clothes because that's mostly what he was interested in. Didn't care for any gas or food or water, but I made sure to offer it to him to be sure. He changes and gets ready to make the trek himself with my help. After a few minutes, he is ready and we're on our way. He says he talked with someone, and he has a house he can go to be warm and safe for the night that is about 0.3 miles away. All right, sounds good, let's head there. We make our way there. The man is not well dressed for the weather, but you gotta work with what you've got. He has regular sneakers on, his pants and my snow pants I gave him, the hat I gave him, the sweater I gave him, and his shirt underneath. He throws a blanket on his head as a kind of protection against the wind and snow. It's bad out. My tracks from just a few minutes ago are all but gone, but I know the way I'm going, so it's all right. We walk up the road to the cross street and quickly cross the street. It's hard to see or hear anything, so we can't really tell if a plow is coming, so we act fast to try and stay safe. Then we make it to the side street. Well, needless to say, that street hasn't been plowed in ages. Snow drifts near my chest and no paths available, so time to trailblaze and make our own. We need to make it maybe like 9 or 10 houses into the street, but with snow like this, we are barely progressing at all. I'm dressed for the conditions, so I'm only getting tired. The man I'm helping isn't doing great. Snow is accumulating on his face, and he occasionally falls into the snowbanks and needs to recover. When we get near houses that block the wind, we take a break and relax, because we need the energy to make it to this house and can't give up. Through more struggles, we eventually make it to the house, about 0.3 miles in 30 or so minutes. The person living in the house graciously lets us both in. I recover by warming up a little bit, The snow that accumulated on my just starts dripping and melting, which I know is a bad sign for me, so I make my stop short so I'm not drenched in water on my trek back. The man I helped is very thankful and gets comfortable and warm for the first time in hours. But I can't stay long, so I tell him I'm glad he is safe. Thank the homeowner, renter, whoever the man that let me in was. Now on my way back home. It's a few minutes after midnight. Made it about a mile in about an hour. Not great, but it is what it is. It's another 0.6 or so miles home. My phone is getting caked with ice at this point, but surprisingly keeps working throughout the whole trip without any issues. Time to make my way back. I can actually see my trail this time, so I utilize my previous steps to try and make my walk back a little bit easier. I'm starting to struggle, but no, I can't stop. Eventually I make it back too and see a front loader messing around with some snow for I'm assuming emergency vehicle traffic. His windows are all iced and fogged up and I can't tell if he even sees me. I've got my mission, so I stay the hell out of his way and keep on going. I give a wave and a thumbs up and keep making my way back home. Cross quick because now I know the plows are around, so I gotta be out of their way. Back into my neighborhood. Now my trail is gone, but I know where I'm going, or at least I think I do, and I keep making my way. I take a pit stop and call the girlfriend at home and let her know I'm okay and all that jazz so she can relax. Phone call ends and I keep making my way. Snow is blocking up my visor and I've been constantly raising and lowering it this whole trip. Fog and ice is really blocking my vision, so I essentially need to keep the visor up to see and only lower it now to catch my breath or block the heavy snow gusts. My progress is really slowing now, and my right leg is starting to hurt. Feels like I'm pulling something near my hip. Oh well, that's unfortunately not something I can dwell on while in the streets in a snowstorm. I keep making my way at a severely reduced pace and take a turn onto my street. Unfortunately, I was a bit exhausted and confused, and made the turn one street too early, and realized that about halfway down the street. Weighing my options, I decide I can't really keep going forward here without risking wasting even more time trying to get home. So I backtrack to where I made the wrong turn and continue on the correct path. Eventually, I make it one street further and make my correct turn. I am getting exhausted and my leg is really starting to bother me. No matter, gotta keep on going. I hook a left and am on the final stretch home. Foot trail is gone again, so I'm on my own for making a path. Snow drifts are getting bad and extremely difficult to get through. I start counting my paces and can only make between 10, 25, usually only 10, before I need to stop and catch my breath. Gotta keep going. That trails on for a while. Eventually I start walking right up against people's houses if the snowdrift made a path to walk where there was less snow. I'm close to home, but very, very tired. Thankfully, for the most part, the snow is at least at my back on this path. I keep struggling, but can't give up. I am making nearly no progress, but I gotta get home. Eventually, I can see my house light, but still have little energy to make it there. 10 steps, 10 steps, 10 steps. I'm close. I see the last section of snow to near my house. 5 steps. My leg is really hurting. 5 more steps. Boom, home. I am exhausted and ready to drop. I make it in the door. Girlfriend helps take off all my clothes and backpack and whatnot. I'm caked in snow, but stayed warm throughout. I try to take my helmet off, but the snow caked onto the back of my head so much that my hair had ice in it that made them stuck together, and she needed to melt the ice with her hand to get it off. I have her check me for frostbite, and surprisingly there's none to be found, which I might debate. At the time of writing this, my ears and still a bit numb and funny feeling, but nothing of much concern here. Almost like the feeling of Novocaine at the dentist, but to a much lesser extent. And then I relax. She has hot cocoa ready for me as I walked in, and I just get to relax now. I earned this hot chocolate. Mission success, helped a man get home safe and got home myself. TLDR. Saved a man stuck in the snow. It's a monumental effort to walk in this snow. If you're not saving your life or someone else's, stay home. If you don't know what you're doing, don't have the right gear, and aren't in good enough physical shape, you will die. A comment from the homeowner who took Junedziman's brother in. Thank you, man. You saved the guy's life. May Allah bless you. I'm the homeowner who you guys came in. For a second I thought you were a first responder with your motorcycle helmet on. LOL, it's a happy ending story. The man stayed in my house 2 nights, and he headed out home to me this morning. He helped me clean some of the snow off my driveway before he left. He arrived his home safe. His car is still stuck on the road. Thank you once again. And the response from Sport 211215. You helped save him too. Thank you for letting him in too to stay with you. You're a hero for letting him in. No problem at all. Update 2 from Junedzaman. Last night I made a post to ask for help for my brother who's stranded on the snow. After posting, I got lots of suggestions and advice. Then from nowhere, this man came and offered this help. Shout out to this kind human angel, Sport 211215, for helping my brother out of the snow in Buffalo last night. This man deserves all the love and prayers and gratitude for risking his own life to help save the life of a stranger. My family will forever be indebted to him, and I just want to help spread his story in hopes of spreading some good news during this holiday season. Please help me in making this local story known. Thank you and happy holidays. Story 5. I'm in love with my baby's mom, but she wants to leave. So I, 27M, met Mila, 25F, like 4 years ago at a bar. Long story short, it was a mutual friend's birthday. We were at this bar, and we had both just gotten out of long-term relationships. Hers was 5 years, mine was 4. A lot of drinking later, it was hella awkward waking up naked on the birthday dude's couch with Mila. But honestly, that wasn't even the wildest thing that happened that night. The birthday guy? He did something way worse. Anyway, after all that, me and Mila were both super awkward about it. She legit looked like she wanted to crawl under a rock. Neither of us wanted anything serious since we had just broken up with our exes, but we still swapped numbers and went our separate ways. Fast forward like 3 months, Mila texted me up asking to grab coffee. I thought it was kind of weird, but I figured she might want to go on a date or something. When I got there, she looked like she'd been crying. As soon as I sat down, she just started bawling. Turns out she was pregnant. She hadn't realized because she was super stressed and tired, but I was the only person she'd slept with. My whole life flipped upside down. We did a DNA test and it was mine. Then she moved in with me because she was sharing a room with a roommate. The guest room became hers, and my office is now Andreas' room, but we call him Andy. Having a kid wasn't exactly in my plans, but since Andy came along, my life's been better, honestly. Over the years, me and Mila never really had a romantic relationship, except for this one time she kissed me after Andy was born. We get along, I support them, I'm paying for Mila's grad school, she finishes next year, we split the chores, and I'm always there for whatever she needs. So in November, Andy's gonna turn 3. We've been planning his birthday, it's around Halloween, so he and his friends are all gonna dress up. He wants to go as Bingo from Bluey. During one of our talks, Mila asked if I wanted her to move out. She said now that Andy's 3, we could co-parent separately, and I could even, get a girlfriend if I wanted to. I just went blank and said no, and dipped to my room. Here's the thing. I love her. Having Andy is everything to me, but I'm also legit in love with her. She's smart, beautiful, caring, thoughtful, kind, dedicated. She's literally the most perfect person ever. But I'm way too scared to tell her. We have a kid together, and I'm terrified of ruining everything between us as parents and friends. I don't know if I should tell her how I feel or just keep pretending everything's fine so I don't mess up what we have. What did the birthday boy do? I hope this doesn't violate any rules in this sub. I didn't comment on the OG post, but I snooped in his comments to see what the heck the birthday boy did. I found out. Man, the real question should be, what didn't he do on his birthday? We hit up this bar and everyone got totally wasted. Then there was an after party at his place. We walked there and I was up front with Mila and some other friends. After that, all I know is from the stories cause I spend the night with Mila, but apparently he got home barefoot with some random dog he stole from someone's house. He decided to get back at his girlfriend for cheating on him, told everyone about it, and then hooked up with her sister while his girlfriend cried outside the room. He ran around the neighborhood in his boxers and ended up passing out on the lawn hugging the stolen dog. He still has the dog to this day. We never found the owners. I think dog didn't have any owners. Link. I finally talked to her about my feelings. the 12th of October, 2024. So I, 27M, posted my story a few days ago, and yesterday I finally talked to Mila, 25F. Quick recap. Me and Mila had a baby together after a one-night thing. Ever since, we've been living together and I'm in love with her. She's absolutely stunning, breathtaking even, but I've been too scared to tell her how I feel because I didn't want to mess up our co-parenting situation. So, I left work early, picked up Andy from nursery, and dropped him off at my mom's. I bought some flowers, cleaned up the house while she was in class, and texted her saying she didn't need to pick up Andy and to just come home because we needed to talk. When she got home, she looked at me with her big eyes wide open, and the first thing she asked about was our kid. I hugged her for a while, but she went full mommy bear mode and kept asking about our baby boy. After I reassured her that he was with my mom and totally fine, she finally calmed down. I brought her to the living room, gave her the bouquet, and started talking. It was a long convo. I told her how I've been scared of ruining things and how it hurt when she asked if I wanted her to leave. She admitted she was afraid she was messing up my life, that she feels like a burden sometimes, and even blames herself for ruining my life with the pregnancy. I shut that down real quick. I never wanted kids, but honestly, since Andy and Mila came into my life, everything's been way better. It's been the best, most challenging mistake I've ever made. She also said she likes me too, and she's felt that way since she was pregnant but wasn't sure if it was just the hormones. After the baby, she felt embarrassed to say anything because she didn't feel comfortable in her body anymore. She never got back to her pre-pregnancy body and thought I wouldn't find her attractive. But to me, she's the most beautiful and hot woman on the planet. She also admitted she'd get jealous when I went on dates, even though she knew it didn't make sense because we weren't a thing. Honestly, if she went on dates, I'd be dying of jealousy too. We talked for a long time, even got into some deeper, more personal stuff. By the time we were done, it was late. We went to this small restaurant near our place for dinner. No wine because I was driving, but it was amazing. We chatted about music, movies, and she went off about a soya for ages while I rambled on about low TR. We talked about life and random stuff. At the end of the night, I got a few kisses in the car, like we didn't even live together, which was kinda cute. Then we watched a horror movie, awful movie BTW, but she fell asleep cuddling me. It was a day full of wins. New update. I finally talked to her about my feelings. The 20th of December, 2024. Hey guys, so I saw a TikTok video about my story and it's kinda embarrassing having a piece of my life narrated by AI, haha. I decided to give y'all an update, but first a quick note. Please use protection. I read some concerning comments about my situation. Yeah, I was pretty drunk and reckless and things could have turned out way worse. Don't be like me. All right, here's what's been going on these past few months. We broke up and she moved to another city. Just kidding, haha. Andy's birthday was amazing. Everyone showed up in costumes and the kids loved it. Andy dressed as Bingo, I went as Bandit, and Mila was Chili. Andy was over the moon that we all dressed up, but what melted my heart was when we were getting ready in the bedroom and my little guy said, "I always wanted this." I think the way our dynamic was before, we didn't really have these sweet family moments, and it makes me so happy that my son gets to experience this now. So, yeah, we're officially dating now, and it's been nothing short of amazing. She's happy, my little guy is happy, and nothing makes me happier than seeing them like this. Has it been perfect? Nah, it's the start of a relationship with a lot of baggage. We're doing couples therapy because we've been living together and acting as a family way longer than we've been an actual couple. The first month was kinda rough. I felt awkward about being intimate at home, and so did she, mostly because of the family dynamic we had before. But I think we're building something really good. I don't have much else to update for now, but I'll definitely share if anything new happens. I told her about this account, so to the hottest woman alive, you've got my heart. Love you, Amelia, my Mila. Story 6. Taifu by knocking on my girlfriend's door. My GF lives in my apartment complex, and I met her one day in September while I was out walking my dog. We ended up going on a date that same night and pretty much instantly hit it off and started hanging out with each other almost every day. We would spend whole days together on weekends, and we did so many fun things together. I really enjoyed her company and started falling for her. My girlfriend warned me in November that from mid-month to December 15th, she would be unavailable. I thought that meant that I wouldn't be able to see her that often. I didn't know that it meant communication from her would become almost non-existent. She stopped texting me the usual "I miss you" or saying "good night, handsome." It started going longer between texts. After a half week of this, I talked with her and asked if she was okay and if we were okay. She explained that we were okay, but she was just incredibly busy and all she really has capacity for is work and sleep, and maybe stopping to eat. But she apologized for making me feel anxious and said she would try. Well, time went on, and it got to be 2 weeks since we had spent any time together. I had gotten to see her a few times for maybe 5 minutes in passing. Then my texts and calls started going unanswered. She had told me the last time we were able to speak on the phone that if I ended up getting off early enough on the following Saturday that I could come over for a bit and we could hang out. I called her that night and it rang to voicemail. I walked my dog when I got home, and when I walked by her apartment, I saw that all of her lights were off. So when I got home, I texted that it looked like she passed out and I hope she got some good sleep. I didn't hear back for 3 full days. It didn't look to me like her car ever moved out of her driveway. I never saw lights on passing by her house. I started to get worried about her because I know she struggles with certain health issues, is super stressed, and hates her job. It seems like she suffers from symptoms of depression. So I texted her just saying I wanted to check in on her, and it makes me feel worried when I don't hear back for this long from her. I still didn't hear anything that day. By the following day, I was extremely worried about her. I couldn't think about anything else. I reached out to her best friend and asked when the last time that she had heard from her was. She told me it was the prior week. I expressed my worry and said I wanted to give her space, but that I was getting worried and I was thinking about going to check on her. Her friend told me that 4 days is plenty of space and that I should go check on her. I went home on my lunch break and I walked over to her house. My anxiety was in my throat. It was still dark in her house from what I could see. Her blinds were all closed. I knocked on the front door. No answer. I rang the doorbell. No answer. I knocked again a bit harder. No answer. I rang the doorbell again. No answer. I knocked hard enough that I felt like she would be able to hear it from the bedroom. No answer. I had my phone out with her text message up and I start seeing the typing bubble. "I'm on a fucking client call, stop knocking." I immediately left. I sent a text message saying sorry, I was just really worried about her. I thought more and added a little later on that I realized I went overboard with the knocking and I was really sorry. It went another full day and I didn't hear back. I talked to my father, who said it doesn't seem like she is communicating, treating you very well. I told him I just wanted to talk to her, and I had half a mind to go knock on her door now, at night, just to talk with her and let her know what is going on in my mind. But I was worried about looking crazy or ruining things further. He asked me how much would change from how things have been going. At least if I did this and I could talk with her, I would have an answer. So I wrote a text telling her I was going to stop by for in 5 minutes to just chat for a bit, and was really important that we talked. I went over and rang her doorbell. No answer. So I went home and wrote a text telling her how much I liked her and how this whole situation was making me feel. How I was feeling like I was being ignored and being treated less than. How I needed some asterisk communication. How a single text every once in a while would go such a long way. I told her this wasn't a, "you need to call me tonight or it's over," but I said I needed to hear from her. I woke up the following morning to see she had sent me a long text around 4 a.m., telling me how busy she has been, which I knew. How she has barely had capacity to even get to her desk. That she's been working 14-hour days and just crashing. Telling me that she'd already told me she would be unavailable. She said coming to her door while she was working and banging on it was incredibly uncalled for. She said her car had clearly been moved. She said that me doing that while I knew she would be unavailable and she was at work, she works from home, during work hours is a hard line for her. I didn't know that unavailable meant zero contact or being able to see her at all. But regardless, in one fell swoop I ended my relationship with someone I cared about deeply. All because I couldn't get a grip on my anxiety and be patient. TLDR got worried about my GF after not hearing from her for days after she told me she would be unavailable. Went to her house and knocked hard on her door when she happened to be on a call. Crossed a hard line for her, and now I am 99% sure I don't have a girlfriend anymore. Come on? She's not for you. Move along. Link. I don't get this shit. I don't care how busy someone is. If they can't take 30 seconds to be like, I'm sorry, I'm swamped, talk later, then you're nowhere on their list of priorities. Link. No, man, you didn't lose anything. She ghosted you. She left you and didn't want to make it official. Unavailable does not mean disappear into the void. It means I won't have time for dinner or hanging out. If she couldn't carve out 5 minutes here and there to even say, oh man, that was a rough day, I can't wait till busy time is over and we can hang out again, then she's not making any effort, and it was never a good relationship. Be sad, talk to friends and family, feel better and move on. You deserve better out of a partner. Good luck. Link. TIFF update by knocking on my girlfriend's door. The 18th of December, 2024. My last post kind of blew up, so I figured some people might appreciate an update. I mentioned at the end of my OP that she had sent me a long text the following morning telling me how much I had fucked up and crossed a hard line. I did respond to that text with apology, saying that I did let my anxiety control me and that I wanted to work on things, that I was going into therapy to work on my own issues. She didn't explicitly say that we were over, so I asked her for clarification on where we stood, if she was done. I said, outside of that, I would not contact her until I heard back from her. As of today, it has been 12 days. She has not responded to me at all. The last 12 days have been horrible for my mental well-being. I decided yesterday to just move on and give myself my own closure. I realized a lot of important things through this experience. I realized that I didn't do anything wrong. Unavailable does not mean you disappear and drop off the earth for days at a time, ignoring the outside world. I did nothing wrong by going to check on her. I did what I did out of love, caring, and worry. I did what I would hope a partner would do for me. No one is too busy to text a single time in 4 days. I realized that I need to take care of myself and assert my own boundaries. I learned some important needs, expectations I have of relationships. I learned about my own codependent and anxious tendencies that I need to work on. I realized there were a lot of red flags about this woman that I was ignoring. In the past 12 days, I have taken up meditation, journaling, daily practice of gratitude. I have gotten into therapy and back into the gym. I have talked with her best friend again, who hasn't heard from her in about as long as I have. The silence isn't personal to just me, which did make me feel a little better at one point. However, now I am still upset. I am mad at the way I've been treated throughout this whole process. I know this is an extremely busy time for her, and I know she is struggling, but I still have needs, and she decided to be my girlfriend. Needs that she is apparently, for any reason, incapable of meeting. Leaving someone who loves and cares about you in the dark for 12 days, when you live a 3-minute walk from each other, is unkind at best. I still don't know what is going on in her head, and I don't know if I ever will. I would still be open to talking with her and hearing her out. I am extremely unlikely to take her back, though. I deserve better. I think my biggest realization is that I can give myself closure. I can detach and take care of myself and still love her and others around me. I wish I could snap my fingers and be over her, but I know it is going to take a little bit. Thank you for all the assurance, kind words, and those who reached out to support. TLDR. She still hasn't talked to me after 12 days. I am moving on. I learned a lot about myself and what I need through this. I wouldn't take her back at this point. For what it's worth, from a stranger on the internet, good for you. Experiences like this can give us opportunities to grow, or they can leave us bitter. I'm glad you chose the former. Link. I had a similar experience, no knocking, but will be busy. Single mom / self-made-at-home food prep business type beat. Sort of stuff for whole weeks to spend the whole weekend worrying if we'll do STH or we'll be too tired, busy to even get to do shit. She also started off being really intense as well, so she kinda left me as a hanger-on after she started doing that shit. Eventually, I texted her to give me my stuff back and I'll drop out from her life. This work your ass off until you die and have no energy for anything world is alienating the shit out of us. Your post helped me realize this is more common than previously thought. The situation itself made me realize you gotta hardline some shit and stay true to yourself.